Alright, what is popping, lads and lasses, for like maybe the one. Anyhow, I'm not even gonna get on that shit. Anyhow, we're back. Look, I'm allowed to take breaks when I want to. Alright? I ain't forget. And what, we got big ass tier shifts coming in 12 or so hours, I would guess. Maybe sooner if they want to gift us tier shifts early. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Anyhow, those will probably shake up NU, and I may as well get one little video out to end this 2 weeks of, honestly, I'd say pretty good metagame. I've enjoyed NU more or less. I do feel like team building has been kind of repetitive with how good certain Pokemon are, mostly Porygon 2 and Crobat. And that's not to say that either is like abhorrently broken. Crobat especially doesn't even creep in that territory for me. But because they're so good and they're so easy to just throw on teams, you know, I get bored of using the same structure repeatedly. Obviously, it's not like you can't diverge. I've got plenty of teams that include neither of those. It's just, oh, it's just so easy to want to put both of them on my team to get nice big Porygon in there. Ooh, nice core. Anyhow, I wanted to showcase, again, we like damage on this channel, and so they call him damage. They really do. I'm gonna do a little nice showcase video, nice in-use spotlight on Exeggutor Alola. I think this Pokemon is just immaculate, wonderful. It's so fun to use because stab Draco, stab Leaf Storm off of this? Ooh, say less. I don't need to be told anything else. Obviously, I'm gonna give the nice 2-minute reminder in the video. If you have not, please leave. Please like the video. I don't ask for much in life. Like the video, anyhow. So, Exeggutor Alola's history in NU is quite the colorful one. In Gen 7, I remember there was a point in NU where I looked at the tier. PU, I think, had recently banned it. And I went, huh, this looks like it'd be pretty decent in NU. I tried building a team with it. I died. I didn't like it. And so I was like, alright, never mind. And then, like, no cap, within a week or two later, I see a post from someone saying, by the way, guys, Exeggutor Alola is amazing. Let's move it up from, like, C+ to B+ on the VR. And I'm like, damn. What could have been? And this mod was really good because at the time it was just so easy for it to take advantage of common rockers in NU. You know, you didn't really ever see any Ice Punch on Rhydon. Steelix was like omnipresent. You'd still see like Druddigon as well, which, you know, you could find turns to come in versus. It was just really good at exploiting a lot of the common defensive Pokemon in the tier. And, well, when you're this strong, it doesn't really matter if you resist its attack. You're still probably taking a huge hit anyway. Eventually kind of fell off, I'd say. I think people in general just started favoring some of the faster breakers. It's probably still good. I think Comfy being really common also has harmed it in SMNU. Because it means if you ever lock into Draco, you're risking game, depending on, you know, game state and whatnot. And then get into SSNU though. When this mod immediately drops, it's pretty ridiculous. I think the big difference that has happened across gens was because power level was in general lower. Exeggutor was able to get away with running some of these, you know, not as immediately strong sets. I think you get away with Trick Room a little bit more easily. I think that was mainly the big thing. And so combine that with specs being incredibly potent, it was really hard for teams, I feel, to find ways to pivot around this Pokemon without just getting, you know, beaten down. And so we banned it. Now it's back because, well, we unbanned everything in NUBL. And I think this mod is... I don't think it's still ban-worthy. And it could just be because Porygon 2 is, like, really good. But I feel like Eggy Alola is a little bit easier to pivot around now. So... before I talk about deviations and set, I want to just like go over general counterplay. So obviously, the primary way that you deal with this Pokemon is you just try not to let it ever get the right hit off. Dragon immunities are probably your best bet because our steel types are not the best, I want to say right now. It's not like they're bad. Scavalier, I would say, is pretty good. Their Alolan is good. I think their Alolan's actually really good right now. That's, you know, let me not undersell that. Alola Slash has its places still. Togedemaru is fine situationally. Aggron's fine. But, like, when these really beat Eggy, most of them just fall over to its attacks anyway. And so I feel like proper pivoting between fairies, which are just immune to Draco, and in, like, in terms of grass checks, things like Centiscourge, Crobat, again, Crobat Omnipresence really helps a lot with a lot of things in this tier. I think are at least, like, I think it's like valid ways. And I'd also like to say, like, Eggy Alola is, I feel, a little bit, again, like, comfy in SM and U. I feel like there's a lot of punishing that you can do with this if it locks into the wrong move. Some of this has to do with, like, how good Aurora Veil is. And Specs Eggy Alola doesn't have the best offense matchup because while you claim if you're ever in a favorable position, you're so prone to giving up free turns for these really threatening setup supers like, say, Turtonator, or like Toxicroak under certain circumstances, like Kingler if you lock into Flamethrower, I guess, could set up versus you, maybe. You know, Fairy Valley, Tauros, these kinds of things. And so there's a little bit more room, I feel, to get punished when you lock in right now. And of course, the big duck in the room, as I'll put it, Porygon 2, being as good as it is, really gives a lot of room for teams to just actually have a safe switch in. I feel like, again, with slow wall breakers, my deal is always, I don't think it's necessarily an issue if you have to revenge kill a Pokemon, if you can also prevent it from having free turns to break, and I think slower wall breakers do suffer from that. You know, we've had metagames with slow wall breakers that were balanced, again, like the Eggy Alola and SMNU. Something like Swords Dance Rhydon. These Pokemon generally have at least one or two, like, gaping flaws that prevent them from being just, you know, unstoppable, and usually it's speed. You get to the really powerful ones in these lower tiers. As you got into higher tiers, you got power breakers that are also super fast, and so these slower wall breakers is like, why would I use that? I could use the same Pokemon, but it's faster. So you get something like a Alola down here that scares everyone because we don't have defensive titans like Blissey or Chansey that a lot of these other tiers have to just soak up all those hits. Well, we kind of do now with Porygon 2. Like, don't get me wrong, Eggy can still break that thing open. And when I say break, I mean, like, I do, like, over 60 with Draco, which is a lot. But you're forced out by Ice Beam. They pretty much all run Ice Beam, at least as an attack. If they're mono attack, they will have Ice Beam. And they can either be faster than Modest Eggy, and they can just recover off the damage you do. And I think that has opened up a lot of, you know, counterplay in people's eyes, because you're like, wow, we have an actual, you know, switch-in. Because people really like having switch-ins to Pokemon. It's a real good way to make a Pokemon look less problematic if you can distinctly point out, you know, defensive answers. I think counterplay gets a little bit more dicey when you're talking about having to play offensively around something. And so, now we get to Eggy's set. This is pretty much what you're always going to see. You know, Draco and Leaf Storm dummy strong, Flamethrower hits Steel types, and then, like, certain fairies, like Whimsicott, the single Rabombi still getting used. And then Giga Drain, I really like, is the last move, or just on the set. I don't think dropping Giga Drain is particularly good. Mostly because I feel a big part about why Eggy is so good is because of how you can exploit switching in versus certain Pokemon to get those free chances to break. And I think also it's nice to just have a safe stab attack to be able to spam. You know, something that doesn't punish you as much as like Draco or Leaf Storm by making you just a little bit weaker. Now, in terms of adaptations to this set, there aren't many. One that I've seen some is Knockoff. This is pretty much designed to say, okay, I'm going to draw in Porygon 2, occasionally Crobat as well. I can at least cripple them and make them easier to break over long term with Knock. You know, like Porygon 2, I think, just dies after Stealth Rock to Draco if you knock it. And obviously I took away Leaf Storm. Again, I view Giga Drain as mandatory. Maybe other people would drop Giga for Knock and say, I want both Dragon and Leaf Storm. That's probably fine. You could probably pretty easily pair this with, like, Wish Vapo anyway. And in recovery from your own Pokemon becomes a little bit less necessary. But I value this move a lot. And in the other adaptation I have seen, and I've used it a little bit, is Timid. A lot of Pokemon like to, you know, speed creep for Modest Eggy. A lot of Pokemon even speed creep points that are within that jump from Modest to Timid. Thinking about trying to, you know, creep for, like, say, Jolly Rhydon or Adamant Aggron. You'll see, like, some Lanterns sitting around the 200 mark. And so I don't think running more speed is a particularly bad thing, right? The main issue I've seen with Timid, damage can sometimes feel kind of bad. A 10% boost is nothing to scoff at, and I feel like I've seen some really depressing amounts of damage done to Porygon 2 with Specs Eggy, all because you went from Modest to Timid. I feel like Modest is probably more consistent, but Timid can give you some shock factor. And if we want to go off on, like, more shock factor kind of things, we can go to, like, other options and look at other sets. Admittedly, I haven't seen much from this, but the easiest one to point out would be Custap Berry. This was brought by Alolan in his Week 1 Inu Snake matchup. I forget who he played. Was it Kushalos? I think it was. But he brought Harvest Eggy. I think it was the same set as, like, Specs. So he just brought, like, this. And then we'll do this. I'll even throw Timid. I'll pretend like he went this. But he brought this. This was kind of cool, because obviously Eggy's still super strong, even without choice specs. This is a big number, particularly for in-use standards. And so, you're still doing insane amounts to the Pokemon that switch into you, but you also get to switch up your moves, so you're not as exploitable. And when you get into that Custap range, as we saw in his game, thanks to Harvest, you can keep proccing that. And now you're just not dealing with Eggy's issue of being slow. Obviously, that's contingent on Harvest proccing, and what's the chance? 50% chance. I mean, that's not bad. It's a coin flip, man, and if you can keep flipping heads, then you got a pretty good shot at just, you know, cheesing your way through victory, a la, like, say, Quick Claw. I hate that item. Anyhow, so we've seen this a little bit. I've run Dragon Fang some as well, on Frisk, obviously. And it's pretty much just the Specs adaptation, but with a different item. I think I also ran, what was it called? Timid on mine. I think I ran knockoff here. But the idea was, Draco's still going to hit super hard. But another thing is that a lot of Pokemon that Eggy can get in versus, like, such as non-Ice Beam Vaporeon, non-Ice Beam Lantern. I guess not Lantern so much anymore, but like Vaporeon, for instance, Regirock, Carbink, they'll try to Scout you with Protect. And so, not being locked into the move that they think you're going for is really valuable. I've caught a lot of people off guard by, you know, going for Draco and then saying, okay, I Giga Drain now when you switch in, you know, your Pokemon that you want to try to have answer this. Which I think is generally just a nice tool. You could probably get it with Miracle Seed as well. But I want to click Dracos, and I want them to be very strong. And I do not want Crobats living my hits as easily as they sometimes can, if you're not, like, Specs. You know, there are some weird Crobat spreads, I think, that can actually take Eggy hits, and I'd rather minimize the chance of that happening. So we got this. And in this next one, I haven't actually seen this pop up at all in this metagame. I think we all know where we're going here. We see it. We see the move. Trick Room Eggy is definitely a thing we've had. I think I mentioned it in my, like, post about why I said, you know, no ban Drampa but ban Eggy Alola. And it's this. So, Eggy's biggest flaw, arguably, is its speed. Leaves it open to a lot of offensive means of KOing it, be it something like, I don't know, a Scavalier. Scavalier's slower, I have no idea why I mentioned that Pokemon. you get the idea. Slower Pokemon maybe that, or not slower Pokemon, faster Pokemon that can just outspeed and KO you. So like Crobat, Scorch with Leech Life, Haunter, these kinds of guys. So what if I just said, okay, I set Trick Room, and now you're looking at an Eggy that your only real way of revenging it is like a Sneasel Ice Shard, which is kind of rough, Again, I saw this in like DLC 1 metagame, but I didn't see it at all in... I haven't seen it so far in DLC 2. Pretty much Eggy has run entirely specs, and then the one time that I saw Harvest with Custap used. Maybe this is still good? It probably isn't the worst. I think the main issue is like Porygon 2 just kind of switches in, and it doesn't care that you've set Trick Room. If P2 goes, then maybe this becomes a lot more appealing. Additionally, Crobat going would be pretty helpful for Eggy because, I don't know, I feel like Golbat's just always easier to have removed from the game because of the rock weakness, whereas Crobat just goes lol boots XD. Neither's a particularly great check. I'd argue Golbat's maybe even a little bit better of a check just because of the bulk. But, again, Stealth Rock. I think that's about it for Eggy. This mod is strong, man. Like, I like clicking buttons, and I feel like Exeggutor Alola is the definition of me click button and me do damage. Lol. It's just, you have two super high base powered stab attack moves. Stab attacks. And it's just, it's so rewarding. You got literally just the right coverage, just, you know, all you need, Flamethrower. And even the Titans like P2 don't really match up to you too well over time, depending on circumstances. I think it's really easy to pair this with like things like Flip Turn Vaporeon, or things like Teleport Porygon 2. These Pokemon can like really easily just get Eggy in. And of course you break really well for really anything. You know, when I think of like Specs Eggy, I like Swords Dance Sneasel with it, mostly because Eggy's just good at forcing damage onto literally the opponent's team. And I mean, hey, a Pokemon that kind of likes, I'd even say relies on a fair bit of team support. Hey, having something that's pretty good at guaranteeing damage across, you know, all your opponent's team members is good. That's gonna be it for me. Again, I'm not gone. I just needed a little bit of a break, and, well, tier shifts being so close really make this month of NU feel really pointless. I'll put it that way. That's it from me, guys. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.